Sorry. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have you. As everybody's kind of trickling in, we're going to give everyone just a minute or two to get in, but I would love to hear where you're from. I'm Lori Boyer. This is Elizabeth Malone. We're going to be running the webinar today. But before we even get started, I want to just see, where are you? Where are you coming from? And so hop over into the chat. You'll see a little chat box down on the bottom. I'm going to chat in there. And tell me where you're calling in from today. Hey, everybody see it? All right, I see Curtis from Boulder, Colorado. Hannah's coming in from Memphis. Adam with Spike Ball coming in from Illinois. Kankakee. I probably totally said that wrong. Kankakee. Adam, sorry if I offended everyone in your city. Sean is coming from Miami. We got William from Madison, Wisconsin. Is it cold up there, William? We were talking about, Elizabeth and I were talking, we've got ice and snow, not snow, ice and fog where we're coming from. Julie from Dallas, like me. Excited to have you. We've got Virginia. Nancy's coming from just outside of DC. Peter from Cincinnati. Oh, Adam said I nailed the pronunciation. That's right. Phew. William says, yep, they got snow there. I wouldn't expect anything else from you, William, in Wisconsin in January. So if you had said anything else, then I would have been surprised. Well, people are going to continue to trickle in, but I just want to go ahead and get started. We have tons of great information today. I am so excited, really excited to have everybody here with us today. My name is Lori Boyer. I work as a marketing communications manager at EasyPost. Hopefully, shout out if any of our customers are on today. Love you so much. Anyone who follows our podcast, always happy to see our community here. But today I have got something really special for you because I have brought in from FedEx the one and only great Elizabeth Malone. Say hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Lori. That was too kind.
He is going to talk to us all about returns. I think we all know returns are kind of the bane of our existence sometimes. And there is so much for businesses to know all around the returns game. What are you supposed to do to kind of minimize returns? What can you do to make sure that your returns policy is where you want it to be so that customers don't get all mad and, shoot off one of those mean customer reviews? What can you do to kind of reduce the costs? And, returns have just become a huge deal. So FedEx has done a lot of research around this topic. Obviously, we all know who FedEx is. And they have done a lot of, they deal with returns every single minute of every single day. And so they have a lot of that data for us. And so today, Elizabeth's going to walk us through that. And I'm going to turn the time to her, but I have gathered up tons of questions from our community, our audience. I'm going to shoot them at Elizabeth as we're going. And please, everyone, this is an interactive session. If you've done these with me before, you know that I want to hear from you. Please share ideas you have. While Elizabeth is a complete expert at FedEx, we deal with tons of return stuff and making sure shipping is great at EasyPost. You guys are on the front lines every day, so shoot out your ideas, things that you've done, what's worked for you, what hasn't, and also include questions, and we'll make sure that we get to those questions throughout the day. So, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Lori. Yes, I live and breathe returns every day. So for me, this is very exciting. As maybe a business owner, small business owner, retailer, maybe not the most exciting, right? It's kind of one of those, we got a return. Did we know we had a return coming? How much is the return worth? When do they want the refund? All these questions kind of flood, that thought process on that one package coming back to you. And so, like Lori said, today we're going to talk about it, kind of just unravel the truths about returns, What are customers wanting? What can you do to provide ease and maybe further sales in the future with your customers? So without a doubt, we will jump right into it. I love this slide. And as I was putting this slide together, we had an old version of this from just a year ago. And guys, it was like 1.8 trillion last year. And to see that nearly triple was incredible. So very exciting for you all that there is online, business and online purchasing thriving. But that also means there's more returns in the space. And so the more online shopping, the more returns you have coming back to you. But I really love that call out of the 1.8 trillion to now 5.13 trillion. It just shows the growth that we continue to see in the economy and that we're going to continue to see for years ahead. It really is something that's not going to slow down.
That's what I was thinking, is this is absolutely something that's just continuing. And like you said, so exciting, but also, it means there's more complexity. So
Yeah, 100%. So the importance of returns, this is one of those things that whenever I talk about in webinars, it's like, yes, we know returns are important. You're like beating the horse, right? He's done, he's dead. We know that they're important. You know that they're important, but how do we capitalize on that importance and turn around and make, lemonade out of lemons, right? So I'm gonna hit on these topics and you'll see these stats throughout the presentation and in our discussion today. But 96% of shoppers would shop again based on a good returns experience. And I always think about it, like if you think back and you think about your purchasing power as a consumer, take it out of like, me as a business owner or somebody that runs that for my business. What makes you happy in a policy? Can you find the policy? Can you even locate it on the website? That's kind of number one. And then how easy and how friendly is it to actually use? And we'll dig into that a little bit deeper. But an important stat that I would like to loop back on is customers spend more if they are repeat customers. So how do you get those repeat customers? You have a good process on the front end. You make sure that it's seamless, that they get their package on time on the outbound, and that if they do need to return it, what is that process like? And then I always like to talk about how convenient returns, although we can be very creative in how they are convenient. We don't want to make it too easy, right? We don't want everyone just returning anything, but we also want there to be some convenience for customers when they do have to make that return. And then these are just some direct quotes, either from myself or my teammates or customers that we've heard. So a good return policy can make or break an online sale. Like I said, they're going to check it out. And we're going to look at policies here in a second. It is imperative that retailers clearly define the ins and outs of their expectations for returns. If it's vague to you guys, it's going to be extremely vague to the customer. And that's where you get kind of those emails like Lori was talking about that may or may not be so nice. And then I always check the returns policy before checking out. We've talked about that. That's something that people are going to look at.
Can I ask you, Elizabeth, where do you suggest having, and maybe we're going to dive into this in a minute, but where do you suggest having the returns policy on their site to make it really clear?
Okay, so I would shout it from the mountaintop as often as you can on your website. So in most times, there's usually a consistent flow with online shopping. I know for myself, I am always going to scroll to the bottom and look. There should be a returns tag, either returns exchanges, returns policy, but that's a norm across the industry, is to have a bottom banner. Yes. Yeah. So follow the norms is what I would say. Don't try to be too creative with where you're putting your policy of like, oh, I think I'm going to think outside the box and put this in a little bit better placement. I would say follow the norms. That's where people know to go. And then as you're checking out, remind as well. So maybe they didn't go check the policy at the bottom, but remind them, hey, either this item is good for a return or it's not good for a return. That's always really important as well. So I would say homepage, definitely have a landing page, and then at checkout as well.
Okay, homepage, landing page, checkout. 3 great places. Everybody write down right now if you have done that or haven't done that. Task number 1, make sure it's in the right spot. Awesome. Take this on, Elizabeth.
Yeah. So I in my world, when we talk about returns, it is for every industry. And that is not, maybe common across the board. Maybe a lot of people think of it just like in e-commerce, especially apparel. Apparel is like the number one e-commerce item that's coming back. But it's interesting to see that auto parts are a number one industry item that comes back. We can equate that to maybe the websites that they buy these on, maybe the front end descriptions of the items, or if they are a novelist, they're not expert. They might be buying items that they don't think they need, or they actually end up buying the wrong item.
I feel like you're calling me out
No,
because
I'm
if it
calling
would be me, I'd be like, I think I need this part. I guess I
yeah,
didn't.
is this the right air filter? Maybe we'll try. If not, I'll return it, right? That's like the kind of inner conversation.
Yeah.
The same is said with apparel. I am sad to say sometimes I am if I want that pair of pants and it's not a great review or description of the size chart, I'm probably going to buy two pairs just to see, okay, does the 6 or does the 4 work? Which one is it going to be? And
That's
that's not, yeah.
like that brings up such a great point, Elizabeth. So that's called bracketing. We often hear about it. People ordering 10 shirts in the same color or 4 different sizes or whatever it is. And I think it ties into where you're talking about auto parts as well. If you are selling some of these things that are the high return rates, auto parts, apparel, home improvement, there are some ways to kind of minimize the number of returns that you're going to get. And I think that means that you just need to be a little bit more careful in terms of what you mentioned first, Elizabeth, was descriptions. So making sure you have really good descriptions. Something that helps really well with clothing, I feel like, is making sure your sizing have a really good explanations. And in those, often you can see in reviews if you need to size up a little bit, size down a little bit. Are there other things you recommend for kind of minimizing especially when you do have some of these areas that are high return
Yeah.
things?
Absolutely. So that product description, like you hit on, also product imagery, we're such visual learners. I can sit and read item dimensions, but until I see it in actual comparison, for instance, my TV stand, the height of it, I read it, I knew how high it was, but conceptually, did I understand what 36 inches was in height? I don't know. So I always like to say, just having your item in a picture is one thing, having it in real life application is another. So I would highly recommend that description, reviews, imagery, comparison imagery, as much as you can do to make it well known what your product is and what you are selling and how is it going to work and fit, the better.
Yeah, and I've started to see as well recently. So a couple of things for you guys, if you have certain items that you're seeing are getting returned a lot, that
Mhm.
probably is like a red flag, like alert, alert. I need to, get some better pictures. I need to, have a better product description. But I've also started getting in a few different websites, some pop-ups telling, not a pop-up, but like when I'm looking at an item, it'll say, this item has a high return rate. Like
Yeah.
it's flagged. And so that then makes me think, okay, maybe I need to pay closer attention as a consumer. Am I looking at it wrong? Something like that. So just, you need to pay attention. I feel like as a small business owner, or just as a shipper, of which items are getting shipped back and returned a lot. Just simply knowing that and trying to make some adjustments on the front end is going to help you minimize some of those return rates.
Absolutely. And if you are seeing that and you can put in some guardrails, like what is the reason? So reason codes are great. And Lori, I know this is something that EasyPost is awesome about helping businesses with, is putting in those reasons as to why the item is being returned. Too small. It isn't the right color. Maybe we're saying this is a teal shirt and it's actually turquoise. I don't know. There's a big difference, right? But I think that's really informative for businesses as well, as if you are starting to get those returns back, why?
Yeah.
Getting those answers.
Absolutely. And I did want to call out, Sean was asking if you're going to get a copy of the presentation. Yes, you will get, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. I love for you to take notes. Like I said earlier, jot down things that are going to be applicable straight to you. I always want you to come away with takeaways and things you're going to go implement in your business today. But you will get a copy of the recording, the presentation. And so you should be good to go in terms of having access to this to share with your team later. So
100%. So we've talked about our return strategy, right, and our returns policy. And I love the stats at the bottom, and especially, the pandemic changed so many things for us. But this is one that continues to evolve and was really changed is our returns and how we shop. We can see here that 3 out of 5 online shoppers prefer retailers that offer free return shipping. So that is something that as businesses, that one stings, right? Like that one hurts. However, if we're talking about making the sale later or making a future sale, this is something that we want to consider, right? It's something that consumers expect almost anymore. And if we do need to look and reevaluate our free returns, what does that look like? We'll talk a bit later about kind of some different strategies on what can we do to minimize cost. And that's an area where we can help out with if you are going to offer that free return shipping.
And I do want to make a point, I was reading a really interesting study that in not 2023, this was 2022. We're barely starting to get our 2023 data, but in 2022, 41% of companies started charging for returns in some circumstances.
Yeah.
So I do want to say we are seeing a little bit of a shift, but it has to be a very careful movement if you decide to do this. And I think there's definitely times and maybe if you do some tiered returning, if you have certain deadlines that you put in, and if you're very, very transparent about certain things. So there are some who are starting to charge returns. Returns have become such a huge percentage of, our business today. So I get that question every single time. If I want to start charging for returns, how do I do it? How do we do it without hurting customer satisfaction? So yeah, for me,
I love that tiered approach though, Lori. Like let's hit that for a second, because that is just really key. There's a lot that you can do before having to start charging. Maybe that will help, like you said. So one of those is looking at the days in which you're allowing returns. So, we usually see 30, 60, 90-day rules across the board. 90 days typical for that peak holiday season. So we're being a little bit more lenient there. We're going to let returns come and go. If you need to bump that down, like let's go down to that 60 mark. Let's go down to that 30 mark, make those kind of changes before you start implementing a restocking fee or something like that, as well as loyalty members. So if you are somebody that, is really trying to beef up your app or your loyalty emails or whatever it may be, that you get that engagement from your customers, lean on that. And those members get the free returns. It really can help your business then in kind of two ways there.
Yes, absolutely. And if you are seeing maybe there are some things that can flag that you get certain people or certain groups who are maybe taking advantage. We've seen some fraud and different things lately. There are softwares to help track that, where then those fees may, prevent some of that. So if you're experiencing that, to me, that's when you kind of start thinking, maybe I need to do something to head it off. But for sure, you don't want to hit a loyal customer who's bought 9,872,000 items from you, and suddenly you're just like spanning them with fees. There are times and places where it's going to work. And again, I'd like to go back to transparency. People are much happier, and that goes to the policies, everything else. They don't want to feel like they got hit with a surprise something, that that they thought that they knew what was going to happen and that you were just trying to sneak it in there. And that's going to just kill the customer experience. So transparency in everything you do is critical as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leans into our next stat there. You can see 74% of consumers feel that retailers need to improve their returns experience, strategy, policy, what have you, whatever aspect that we've kind of hit on. There's a large majority of consumers that feel like something needs to be tweaked. And so it's also nice that when you have those loyal customers and you have that good base, get insight and feedback from them. They're your direct reviewers per se. The one-off that's upset about your returns experience or the item that they bought from you and send it a nasty email, that's probably not your most loyal customer. And so, you don't want to not take their consideration, but take it with a grain of salt and get your feedback from your loyal customer base.
Absolutely.
So return policies impacting the customer journey. We've kind of hit on it, but we'll go a little bit deeper here. So 39% of consumers said that free return shipping was a factor when choosing to shop with an online retailer. We just talked about that. Again, it's one of those, you really have to weigh the importance there. And then 27% said the flexibility of return policies mattered when choosing to shop online. So is this an item that is going to be a clearance, that is a one-time sale? Announce that. Again, it's that transparency portion. A big item, bathing suits, we're going to come into that season here, very soon. That's maybe not an item that you want back all the time, especially items that don't have tags on them, items that have been clearly worn. That's okay. You can take the ownership and back and protect your items as well, and that's okay to do. And then placing an order. So 86% of online shoppers have checked an online retailer's return policy before placing that order. I'm going to say that is even generous. I would almost say that everybody anymore is definitely checking that policy. And then they have abandoned due to the policy. So you can see down at the bottom, 52% of online shoppers have abandoned a shopping cart due to the return policy. Guilty. I am very guilty of that. It's either because I had to, and we'll get into this, but I had to print my own label. I don't have a printer at home. I'm not going to do that, so that right there deters me from going through with a shipping order, or placing that fulfillment order for Christmas, what have you. I mean, it really will. And then we've talked about this, 96% of shoppers. Let me go back. 96% of shoppers would come back to a business if it's easy, transparent, convenient.
And I wanted to make a couple of points here. First,
Yeah.
Sometimes when we think of policies, we tend to think of our legal policies and our privacy policies and all those things we have to have on our website that honestly not that many people read.
Yeah.
Return policies are not in that same category. And so one of the things I want to say is sometimes in those other policies, we get bogged down with a lot of legalese. The words become difficult to understand. Going back to the transparency, make sure your return policy is not full of hard to understand phrasing, and just make sure it's clear and transparent. That is one thing. And then also we had a question from Tracy that I wanted to throw at you. Tracy was wanting to know, in our opinion, is offering exchanges as important as offering returns for concepts there in the beauty space?
Yeah, exchanges are an interesting topic right now. So let me lend a little insight from Target, for example. They're no longer doing exchanges, which I find interesting, because if you think about it, you're keeping the money if you're doing an exchange and you're just alternating the item. With a full return refund, the money and the sale is out of your pocket. So if you are considering that thought, that's one thing. So you have to think about, am I going to offer an exchange to keep the sale, or am I offering an exchange for convenience? Yeah, that's where I kind of would ask that question. So for Target's example, I purely think, at least in store for these in-store returns, I think it is convenience for their employees. There's a lot of factors that we hear of why they do not do exchanges. There can be fraud. There can be, various implications of it's out of season. How are all these things that we're working at the counter with? When I'm thinking of exchanges, though, online, I'm thinking that there does have to be some parameters around the timeliness of it. So I am guilty, especially in the beauty segment. I got the wrong concealer and I've got a little bit left to get me through. So I'm like, I'll do the exchange when it comes. Well, now it's a month down the road and I'm doing my exchange. Does that help you as a business or not? These are just things to consider. I get the exchange aspect, though, from keeping the sale. That's one thing that I totally get and totally would, put money behind of keeping the sale in the.
Yeah, and I love the idea. So, Tracy, for what I would think is, what is more important to you right now? For all of us, everything's important, right? We want a great customer experience. We also want the sale and the bottom dollar, but maybe is one slightly more important to you right now at this time? Are you in a space where maybe you've struggled with some customer experience and you're wanting to change, whatever it is, think about which of those is kind of the higher tier and go for that. It's super interesting about Target. It makes me, again, what is it that's going on with them that exchanges are not worth it? Is it complexity? Are they seeing
Right.
too many long-term? And so maybe on the small business scale, look at it yourself. If you're not having complexities and problems, then, it's a great offering for the customer. If it is more of a pain, maybe you're just getting a return. Sometimes the exchanges can even lead to more problems and have a worse customer experience because they don't want to have to return it twice. And so, yeah. Hannah wanted to know thoughts on Shop Now return credit. She said she loves the option as a shopper, but she's interested kind of in our overall perspective on Shop Now and return credit.
Yeah. So it's, again, I think with that loyalty base, would I feel comfortable with that as a business owner doing that with a loyal customer? Absolutely, probably. I know that my return is going to come back to me, and I know that the item that they're choosing is going to go right back out as soon as I receive that. I think there just has to be very clear expectations once again. As a shopper, if I think I'm going to get a credit and I want my item immediately delivered in 3 days from now, and I haven't even returned the item that I initiated, I'm going to be looking at day 7 going, gosh, where's my item? I'm not happy. Like, where is it? And really it's because I didn't make my return in the first place. So that I love the concept of, and as a consumer, I love the concept of it. And I think it does build loyalty. I think you just have to be very transparent on the front end of, you will not get X if you don't return Y.
Yeah, and as we talked about a little bit, we are seeing increases in fraud when it comes to returns. And so I think absolutely Elizabeth is key here, right on the money in terms of your loyal base. Let's offer some of these awesome programs. Let's show them like you're part of this team and we really appreciate you, because they've kind of proven themselves. They're not just not part of some sort of, fraud scheme out there just trying to get a quick buck because you were being generous. So I think absolutely test it out. I always say with most things, let's just test it out. Don't be afraid to try different things. And then if it's not working well after a month, switch it up. But I think the opportunity of Shop Now return credit is awesome for some sort of loyalty group. That's what I would agree.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll go ahead to the next slide. I know that we touched on this very early on in the conversation, Lori, but this is actually going to give us real example of a great return policy. So
everybody think of your return policy. Are you following this?
Yeah.
Some people on some calls, I won't call you out if you're here, who told me they don't even know if they have a return policy or where it is themselves. So, obviously if you're at that point, rule number 1, get yourself a return policy.
Yeah.
But make sure you're writing these down. Which things do you feel like you can improve on?
Yeah, absolutely. And if your employees don't know about your return policy, that's also another red flag. But to jump into it, so easy to find, right? We talked about that. Where are you going to go? Is it following the norm of other websites? Is it easy to locate and read through? And then is it easy to follow? I read so many policies when customers come to us, and it's like, initiate with your customer support team, then we'll email you, and then you email us back, and then you're going to print out the label, and then we don't want you to call for a pickup, you got to drop it off at only this location. Like, golly, that's a lot for me to go through just to get my money back or get a new item, right? So make sure that it's very easy to follow, simple bullets, 1, 2, 3, what am I doing as a consumer? And again, is it the norm? Is it an easy flow of, okay, I know I need to select my item from my email. It's going to be emailed to me. Like, that's kind of a norm in the return space. And then we've talked on that free return shipping, if that is something that you are offering and you deem to be, something that you want to offer to maybe a loyal base or just to all your customers, make sure that it's said. Don't leave anything to the imagination. And if you are charging, please put up front, how much will you be charged when you have a restocking fee or what have you? So again, just
transparency, guys.
yeah, yeah. And then my favorite, easy to print labels. I know I've talked about, I don't have a printer at home. That is something that I probably will not have in my house unless I absolutely need it for work, right? And I think a lot of people are in that same space. It is
Especially in
cheaper.
certain demographics, right? So
Yes,
if you're
yes.
selling things, you guys, to like a certain demographic, who the younger they get, especially, they're probably not going to have a printer. So you may have a printer, they may not. So anyway, that's
I think it's cheaper to buy a new printer with the ink cartridge than buy the ink cartridge. I think that was the number one reason I decided to ditch it. But all that to say, no label options are definitely preferred right now. So we just did a recent survey. Our team, we're working on getting it launched and pushed out there, and it'll be communicated in the weeks to come. So Lori, I'll make sure that you get your
I've had
hands
a
on.
little glimpse at the data, so keep your eye.
Yeah, it's great. But the number one thing is people feel comfortable going to a location to make a return. And so I know we'll talk about that here in a second, but that is why no label options are so great, because they do encourage customers to go into either a shipping location like FedEx and get that label printed for them and drop it off with someone that is secure, someone that's trusted. Or they want to go into your retail locations and make that return, and get that receipt back and see that refund hit their account, in a few days. So, yeah.
Sorry to say, if you do a retail location, some of you are fully online, some of you have retail locations as well. Research generally shows people really prefer to come into your store and return it that way. So I actually had a friend who, and this is where you kind of watch with some of your technology as well, who tried to return something he bought online to an in-person store, and they wouldn't take it in the store. He had to ship it online. That's a really poor customer experience that way. So make sure you have the ability that if you have a physical location, that people can come in and get a return or an exchange that way. So
yeah, it definitely is preferred. I think for so long there was this misconception that pickups or putting something in your mailbox is preferred and more convenient to customers. And it just has proven so many times that it is not. So love the no label options. It really encourages that good behavior that we want. And other note that I'll add, that's what consumers prefer to take it in, but you all as well, from a business standpoint, having that, I kind of call it that invisible wall, right? Having someone take an item into a location that has human contact, we have seen results. I will say this loosely, nothing scientific here, but we've seen results that, human behavior, if they have to take an item into another human, they're going to be deterred to take in a brick in, a box. It's kind of that like mind game that you have to play. So when you're thinking about frauds, situations with the returns, you may not have the option to sit and check the item. We do offer that at FedEx, but if that's something that you haven't enabled, just simply sending someone into a physical location kind of plays that mind game. So I just like to add that as well. And then of course we've talked about the hassle-free. So am I, printing out my label? Am I finding my own packaging? That's one thing FedEx we also offer is no box options, which has become really on the rise the past couple of years. So that's something that we will talk about in the future. And then what am I getting back? Like, when is it coming back to me? What is coming back to me? Having that insight as a business owner is really important. So having good policies that clearly outline what's expected from the consumer will help you in turn see what's coming back sooner. And then this is just a really nice element. Again, you can see that the return summary clearly defines the actions you don't need to print in order to ship. So find an eligible location, make it very convenient for them to find that location that they're dropping it off, and seeing how much is returned real time.
So if they're looking for a location, Elizabeth, what do they do? So, let's say that they're fully online business and they're thinking, okay, maybe I should get somewhere that people could just drop it off and do the no print thing. Where do they start? What's the first steps?
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak from FedEx example. So we have 10,000 locations that someone can take advantage of that. So if you're fully online and you want to offer that type of return to your customers, one thing, and we have a great, relationship with EasyPost on that, we can offer that physical location. That's something that FedEx really capitalizes on, is our retail expansive network. So we do have 10,000 locations that QR code can be scanned, label printed, and they are convenient locations like Walgreens, FedEx office, ship center locations. So it's really, really through that, we can make that connection and offer that for your customers.
Okay, and so if somebody here wanted to put, like, say, this QR code on their website, they could work with you or whatever, if somebody else, if they were working with anyone else, to get a QR code, put it there on the website.
Yeah.
Does it cost extra to do stuff like that?
Yeah, so if you're enabled through FedEx or EasyPost or another provider, so our technology is integrated with many providers across the platform. From a FedEx standpoint, we do not charge to print that label, and we do not charge you any extra to have that capability of a QR code. It's just built into your transportation of doing business with FedEx. That's kind of the nice call out there.
Perfect. So that's an easy thing for you guys to know. It doesn't cost money. Easy way for you to have returns that way. And you can test stuff like that out again. And if you're feeling like, actually, my demographic really does like to mail things in, again, test everything out, see what they like the best, see if sending a label with them that they could return. There's a lot of options in terms of returns, but what the data is really interestingly showing is that people do really like to take an item to a place and drop it off.
Yeah, they do. And they do like options, Lori. I'm glad you hit on that. I mean, with our QR code enablement, we also do provide that PDF label. So the consumer really can make the choice. We love to see them take it in with a QR code, but if they want to take advantage of our, 50,000 plus drop-off locations, say that they don't have one of those 10,000 near to scan and print, they can absolutely print that label off and drop it off at one of our, like I said, 50,000 plus locations that you can drop off a package.
It's great. So you guys, I have a couple of daughters who are both Gen X. Oh, not Gen X. I'm not that old. Gen Z. And I'm Gen X, so Gen Z, and they shop, of course, on Amazon all the time, and they always return to a location. Like, they're returning stuff all the time. They always go to Kohl's or whatever, one of those locations where they can drop off or returns. I know as a small business, you feel like, oh, I'm competing with the Amazons of the world, but that's why it's really great. You do have access through places like FedEx and, other larger organizations to have that same kind of experience. It doesn't have to be, oh, just Amazon can do that kind of experience. There's lots
100%.
of ways. So.
Yeah. That's something that at FedEx, we do a really good job about thinking about, does this effort or project or solution fit all the buckets that we see and serve. So we are very heavily involved in our SAM space, small and medium customers, and making sure that they can compete with the big dogs. We want them to feel empowered to do so.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then just thinking about what is it that makes it difficult for consumers, right? So we've talked about all the things about policies and how to change them, and what does my returns process look like? And so these are some of the factors that came back to us in a survey, that make it a little difficult, is that they either have to pay for the items to go back, or they have to drop their package at a mail facility. There's no easy way to exchange. So I know we talked about exchanges. So just making sure, again, that these kind of topics are addressed on your website, and you are talking about that very frequently with your consumers is key here.
And I totally recommend, if you do have some returns, getting some automated surveys you can send out as well. Track of your own customers, how did they feel about the returns experience? Where did they feel like they would have liked things to be a little different? And just always be keeping an eye on your own specific customers. It's easy to set up, and you can track it that way.
100%. And I know we've talked about this, Lori. You had a great opening for me to talk about how FedEx, can help in that space, but we'll touch on it here a little bit as well. So we talked about the generous window of time. That is up to you and your customer base. What is generous? 30 days is the standard, like we've talked about. Really going for what is standard across the board really helps you in that space. But if you need it to be longer at certain times of the year, especially around the holidays, you make that call based on your customer segment.
Maybe certain products too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If it's not so seasonal, maybe like a house pillow, maybe there's a little bit more leniency there
Yeah.
than, Christmas
But
sweater.
maybe you don't want them to return a banana 30 days.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, please don't return any bananas. That would be kind of bad. And then we've talked about the charging for returns, the easy access. So again, easy access to return labels, whether we're going in and scanning them and having the label printed or if we're printing them ourselves. And then making sure, like, this is really important too, is making sure that label isn't hitting that junk mail. Like, gosh, you would like to think that people check their junk mail sometimes. Oh gosh, I didn't receive the return label. Make sure that it's something that is going to their inbox if you can. And if they are having troubles with it, let there be a support team that can help them and guide them to where they may be able to find it in their inbox if needed. And then we would have already talked about our drop off, but again, 10,000 locations for that QR code to be scanned and printed, and 50,000 for pre-labeled returns. And then the timely refund. This is really key, right? We as consumers, immediately when we drop it off, we're like, where's our money? It's not in our hands anymore. Where's our money, right? So making it very transparent in the journey of the return. We like to do that on the outbound, right? Where's my package? Where's it going? But it's also nice to provide that to customers as well on the refund side. So we've received your package, yay, you'll get it back in, 2 to 3 days, or we haven't received your package yet. Refund will come when we do. Just having that transparent language again really helps when we expect that money back in our pocket.
And if you are doing an exchange or anything else, I really encourage you to make sure you're providing tracking for your customer, that they know where it is. I recently had an experience like we just mentioned, I just moved to Dallas area and I'd ordered some new furniture items and I had to exchange them. It was a huge pain to start because it was a large, heavy item and they wanted me to take it somewhere and I didn't, So again, maybe there's some cases where you do want pickup, the big, heavy thing, and how am I going to get this in my car? I had to do that. They weren't responding quickly. And then I had no idea when I was going to get the new one. It wasn't showing up. And I was like, I'm sitting here with no couch kind of thing, and waiting and waiting. And while it all worked out, I never shop from them again because it was not a good experience. It was difficult. And more than anything, I didn't know where my stuff was. I didn't know when it was going to show up. I didn't know. So just like we like tracking when our package is coming on the first, we're sitting there waiting and you can see like, okay, it was dropped off at this facility. Your returns need to offer that the exchanges, same way. So just make sure that your customers are, again, kept in the loop. It's really interesting. Studies show that as long as people know what's going on, they're far less likely to say that they're having a negative experience, even if they have the exact same time frame and experience. As long as they know what's happening, they're okay. But if they feel like they don't know, so imagine you're sitting in a doctor's office waiting for your doctor for 45 minutes and you have no idea when they're coming. If every 10 minutes someone stopped in, hey, it looks like we've got about this much time. Do you need some water? What's going on? I'm sorry. Then you're fine. You're not upset. But if you're like, I have no idea what's happening, no one's talking to me, nothing's going on, that just creates that negative experience. So again, be transparent and try to make sure you're offering all the tracking and information that your customers would want to have.
Yeah. And constant communication, Lori, like you said, even if the package isn't going to be there for 2 days, just communicate it. Let them know. I always laugh. The best fast food chain that does that with communication is Chick-fil-A. If you've gone through a Chick-fil-A fast food line, you hit about 4 people before you get your food, but you're not thinking about how long you're waiting there because you're constantly getting that interaction and that touch base.
Exactly. That is such a great point. So yeah, I always say over communicate, error on the side of over communicating rather than under communicating.
Yes, absolutely. So, we can't talk about returns without talking about sustainability, right? Like that is a huge topic as we've seen this increase.
So big.
Yes, so big.
We're going to have a whole conference around sustainability in a few months because this is such a big deal and returns is a huge part of it. So
yeah, it is. And We have done a lot of things to combat where we can from a FedEx side on sustainability for returns. The first one is making sure that the items are coming back in a proper package. So one thing that we hear from a lot of our customers is, I got a TV box with a t-shirt inside of it. Can you think about A, the cost to move that? B, the sustainability behind that. Okay, moving that huge box in a big box trucks that could have literally been a little, paper poly bag, what have you. That's something really to keep in mind is, are you leaving that to chance with your customers, or are you going ahead and addressing the issue on the front end of the packaging of those returns? So that's kind of one. We also are seeing a lot of consolidation in the place in the space. So that's something that we have launched. I guess it's been a year now. I cannot believe it. We have launched FedEx Consolidated Returns. So this is where we have our main point of contact for drop off, which is FedEx office. And we allow consumers to come in with that same frictionless QR code experience, right? But now this time we're saying no need for the packaging. Don't come in with your TV box, right? And we are no longer saying, we're going to ship it one-to-one. We offer now that consolidated, that multi-merchant consolidation. So we'll put, a bag from merchant A and a bag from merchant B and put it in a box. And we'll send that one box to our supply chain hub where they deconsolidate it and send it back to you all individually, but in large containers. So that really has helped in that sustainability space as well when it comes to returns, making sure that they're all combined and getting back to you all.
And I want to throw out a few other suggestions for you guys in terms of returns and sustainability. This is a huge topic. One of my first recommendations is, if it's, a low cost item and it's better to let them keep it, you absolutely can select a tier of items that you don't even have get returned, suggest that they recycle it or that they donate it. I've talked to different people who said that, one thing they do, they have shirts, everything that's brought back, because this huge percentage, you guys, I can't even tell you, it's like 1 trillion pounds a year go into landfill from our returns. You can donate those. And I absolutely encourage you, if you are doing things like that, please put it on your website.
Yes.
Consumers are looking for businesses that are trying to be sustainable. So please make sure you're sharing anything you're doing. If you are, for instance, you could put a little note saying we use FedEx through sustainable shipping efforts, or with EasyPost, we now offer all carbon neutral shipping. So we purchase carbon offsets. So if you're shipping through that, you can have that. Just make sure it's known. So yeah, if you are an EasyPost customer, please reach out to me if you don't know about how to get a badge on your website, different things to show what you're doing for your sustainability. But returns is a really big area of where consumers are concerned, but also where you can just make a really big difference and be able to share that with your consumers. So Chai, I hope I said your name right, said they are solving for returns by using donations at Liquid Donate, and they use EasyPost. Yay, EasyPost customer, for creating shipping labels. Again, one of the things that is critical to me, so many of you are working to be sustainable, but sometimes you don't share it with your customers. And Elizabeth and I can both tell you how many stats are out there about customers are looking for businesses that are being sustainable. So make sure you just share it. We donate, and that we are working on a sustainable future together, and we understand about this and that. And so make sure that you do put those little badges up, that you are sharing, you're consolidating your returns through FedEx, or that, you're using EasyPost, carbon neutral shipping, and that you are donating or whatever it is. So share, share, share. Again, I'll try to be quiet here, but sustainability is a passion of mine, and I know it's so important in our industry. So let's just make sure we're doing our part.
Yeah, something to be proud of. And I know we've talked about, oh gosh, do we want to charge for a return? Do we not? If you're transparent in the fact that, hey, we're trying to make this more sustainable, we are trying to, really cut down on our returns, here's our charge for it, you're going to probably get a lot more respect that way than just to say, this is a restocking fee. you know, or
Yes.
whatever you have with it.
Great point, Elizabeth. And because research shows that people say they're willing to pay a little bit more for sustainable options. So
Absolutely.
offering it, that's a fantastic idea, Elizabeth. Love that.
Yeah, and it lets them be a part of it as well. So they feel like they're doing their part. All right. Well, that I think we've talked about returns upside down in every way till Sunday. But I do want to just put the call out there that if you have any questions, of course, we'll take them in the chat now, but Lori and I are happy to have any discussions after this as well. If you want to dig into any of the topics deeper or see how it pertains specifically to your customer base, I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. I love, as always, if you have topic suggestions, things you want to learn, if you want me to have Elizabeth back because we've got more questions around returns, please feel free to at any time reach out to me, reach out to Elizabeth. We're happy to help. We're here to just really educate you. While we work at EasyPost and FedEx, we are both, I know, super passionate about just helping you guys be sustainable and successful and be able to run your business in a way that you're doing awesome for both your business and, your customers.
Yes. I did see somebody asked about how they can get in contact with us. So I know, Lori, you're probably easy to contact from EasyPost.
I am. It's L Boyer. In fact, I'll type it in for you, my email.
Yeah, and I'm going to do the same. So feel free to reach out and I can put you in contact with someone on my team that would be able to assist.
Yeah, so if you need any help and you're interested in figuring out how to use FedEx, or if you're interested, again, if you're an EasyPost customer and you haven't been using your badge on the website, or if you want to learn about us, please reach out. We're happy to help. And we're also happy to hear more about what you want to learn and how we can help you in the future. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. I knew
Thank you, Lori.
just wanted to have you on. We just had peak season. Returns are big. And I think that let's make 2024 a year we kill it on returns. So thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Really great to have you. Appreciate your participation. And we will see you all on the next webinar.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.